save the state. The family is Africa's primary social security, infrastructure, and economic asset. The family is the ultimate engine of Africa's national security, economic stability, and financial sustainability. In the absence of comprehensive institutionalized welfare, pension plans, and elderly care, the extended family functions as Africa's primary social security system. The extended family is the social security infrastructure, retirement plan, nursing home, and unemployment insurance. The extended family absorbs economic shocks of the elderly and the vulnerable. If the family unit collapses under economic and migratory pressures, the state faces an unmanageable financial and social crisis. Therefore, family preservation ought to be considered in development planning as a matter of national economic sustainability priority. As a scholar of African Christianity and culture, I must note that our cultural systems have never been entirely static. The contemporary African family operates within a fast-moving, globalized matrix. We are witnessing massive shifts, urban migration, pulling young people away from family networks, the rise of the digital landscape, reshaping how children and young people learn. These dynamics are not inherently evil. Technology offers tools for education, and urbanization can drive economic transformation. However, we must distinguish between healthy social development and destruction of cherished family values and sovereignty. Our ancestors practiced a beautiful concept of community. Among the account of Ghana, it is said, Biakoye. The understanding is that we are better together. As our economic and social landscape shift, our challenge as leaders is to ensure that modern advancement do not render us individualistic, detached, and spiritually hollow. However, distinguished delegates, we must face the reality that our family systems are under unprecedented siege. The contemporary pressures are real, structural, and complex. Let us be completely candid with one another. The pressures confronting the African family system today are immense, and they are arriving from two distinct fronts: external imposition and internal neglect. We are currently facing what can only be described as a targeted wave of cultural imposition. Under the guise of development assistance, human rights, diplomacy, and international aid treaties, multilateral agencies and foreign powers are attempting to reshape the African cultural, moral, and family landscape. They seek to normalize non-traditional configuration of family and marriage that fundamentally contradicts the natural order and our deeply held cultural convictions. When economic aid is weaponized to demand the dismantling of a nation's cultural values and moral framework, it ceases to be diplomacy. It becomes ideological coercion. It is an assault on national sovereignty. Moreover, we are witnessing an aggressive global campaign to redefine the African family. Concepts of family and marriage are being pushed upon Africa that strips away the relational and procreative baseline of our existence. When we are told that marriage is purely an individual choice, divorced from community, procreation, and cultural continuation, it is directly threatens our human existence. To protect the African family is to protect the continent's independence and sovereignty. But we must also look into the mirror. The external pressure only finds easy soil because our internal structures are weak. High youth unemployment rates and economic hardships are forcing parents to spend less time raising their children. We are sourcing the moral upbringing of our children to smartphones, unmonitored internet programs, foreign media contents, and other digital devices. There is existential tension between missionary faiths like Christianity and African culture. Africa indigenous knowledge systems have not been properly integrated into educational programs and policies. Young people are struggling with their African cultural identity. If we compromise on moral and cultural family values, the African society will virtually have no ethical pillars to sustain her. This will ultimately lead to a weaker, chaotic, and morally decayed society. Despite these existential fractures, the African family has proven remarkably resilient, even under the weight of poverty and external ideological shifts. Africans still have hope in the family system. We still pool resources for funerals. We still contribute to the education of nieces and nephews. And we still honor the palace and the pulpit. But resilience can not just be passive survival. We cannot merely complain about external imposition and internal neglect. We must build internal, legal, spiritual, and social fortifications. If we lose the African family and sovereignty, no amount of economic aid and infrastructure will save our nations. How does Africa respond to both the external impositions and internal neglect? We don't need to respond by hiding in fear, nor do we respond with mere anger. We must respond with a robust, deliberate, resilient ethic, a strategic framework that leverages our laws, our faith, and our culture to stand firm. The key pillars of the resilient ethics remain the parliament, the palace, and the pulpit. They are the key strategic partners of resilient ethics in African society. Parliamentarians are the gatekeepers of our national sovereignty. They translate the cultural heartbeat into binding protective acts. They must enact laws that reflect the authentic values of the people who voted for them into office, not the expectations of foreign donors. This explains why Uganda, Ghana, and other African nations have engaged in rigorous legislative efforts to protect our family values and sovereignty. Laws from our parliament must shield the vulnerable, safeguard our children, and from cultural impositions, and affirm family system and marriage as understood by our cultural values. Stand firm, our parliamentarians, against external blackmail and sanctions. True sovereignty is expensive, but it is non-negotiable. Potential criticism of this stance will be isolation of Africa from global human rights standards and modern diplomatic partnerships. But true diplomacy is built on mutual respect, not ideological coercion. True independence and sovereignty cost more than foreign aid. The intellectual weight of African cultural values is embedded in the African indigenous knowledge system. Unfortunately, early Western anthropologists and missionaries describe African cultures in derogatory concepts such as heathen, barbaric, superstition, animistic, fetish. The practice did not encourage integration of the indigenous knowledge system into later educational programs and policies. The intellectual resources in Africa indigenous knowledge systems must be revisited to enrich African educational systems at all levels. Ministries of education ought to intentionally integrate indigenous knowledge system, modesty, civic honor, and relational ethics into the educational curriculum. Focusing on cultural values may attract potential criticism of ignoring the freedoms and individual choices of the modern digital landscape. We don't fear the digital landscape. We want our young people to master it without losing their identity. Individual choices are fragile when they leave people isolated. Our resilience relies on protecting our youth from becoming alien Africans on African soil and disconnected from the community structures that preserve human dignity. Our educational systems must build values and character and not just only careers. National development planning targets have most often been considered in areas such as economics and physical infrastructure. Moral development has often not been seriously considered as a major dimension that must attract national interest and priority. The assumption has been that Develop the economy and physical infrastructure, and the nation will be fine. But please, let me remind this gathering that education without moral and spiritual values anywhere produces intelligent criminals. And I don't know how many that we have so far produced for this continent. Keep this in mind. Education without spiritual, moral values anywhere will produce intelligent criminals. Let our children learn the values of respect for elders, community solidarity, and the sacredness of family before they are introduced to foreign theories that cause moral disorientation. National development cannot be measured solely by infrastructure and economic metrics. It requires ethical and moral development infrastructure. Family preservation belongs in the national economic planning arena and must remain there as the missing social safety net. We need to avoid outsourcing the moral upbringing of the next generation to smartphones and unmonitored foreign media. A digital device cannot and must not raise an African child. There is the need to foster deeper institutional collaboration and unified partnership between Parliament, the palace, and the pulpit. When the traditional leader, the religious leader, and the member of Parliament speak with one voice, the community listens, and the family is insulated from confusion. And also, Christian education ministry, our continent is too religious. Christian education ministry of the church must equally prepare members to become both faithful disciples of Christ and active citizens of society. Too much prosperity preaching on the continent is not helping us. Church members must become both Africans and Christians without any sense of cultural tension and isolation. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, Africa's future is not written in the capitals of the West or the East. It is written in the homes, the villages, the churches, the mosques, and the palaces of Africa. If we compromise on moral and cultural family values, the African society will virtually have no ethical pillars to sustain here. This will ultimately lead to a weaker, chaotic, and morally decayed society. Africa's long-term stability relies on utilizing its traditional social safety valves to resist modern fragmentation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the assault on the African family is an attempt to erase our identity. A people without an identity are people who can easily be controlled. But Africa is not a continent without identity and history, nor are we a people without moral compass. Our resilience is written in our DNA. Africa survived the physical chains of transatlantic slavery. We survived the borders drawn through political colonialism. And by the grace of the Almighty God, we will survive the subtle chains of ideological neo-colonialism. We will not surrender our moral identity to ideological neo-colonialism. Let us protect our families. For when the family stand, Africa stand. When the family crumbles, the continent falls. Today, I invite you all to join a campaign. And the campaign is simply this: we refuse to become alien Africans on our own African soil. Let this message re-echoed in every corner of Africa and corridors of power, that we refuse to become alien Africans on our own African soil. Let this fourth Inter-Parliamentary Conference not just be an event of fine speeches and declarations. Let it be the birthplace of a binding continental solidarity. Let Accra accelerate the codification of an Africa Charter on family values and society. May our families remain strong. May our laws remain uncompromised. And may our continent rise in dignity, sovereignty, and in faith. God bless our various nations, and God bless our motherland, Africa. Merci, asante, obrigado. thank you all for your attention.
Let me add my voice to many of you. Thank Dr. Reverend. You have been spot on and have a touch of reality. Thank you so much. I must also thank the organizers. You got a good selection of speakers. So let's now listen to Madam to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, August House of distinguished brothers and sisters of the continent. Thank you, moderator, and indeed, thank you to the distinguished speaker. I was just telling Reverend, I've been following him keenly on LinkedIn. Almost every post of his, I always repost, including a very recent one. And thank you for always refreshing us intellectually and spiritually. And I think one quote from his presentation sings very well. I'm sure with you as well. I'm not sure if I'm quoting it to wit, but to say that if we educate without spiritual development, we end up producing intelligent criminals. Oh my God. That is wonderful, and I think it's a bite we'll take with us. It's an honor to stand here as a member of a very vibrant community, a coalition that is made up of activists, advocates, who have achieved a very powerful, I believe, a feat that politics has never been able to do, religion has never been able to do, as to unite Ghana together behind one strategic and agenda, which is our family values, and for which we have for once in the history of the nation, have forgotten about all the lines that have divided us as a nation, not religion, not sports, not politics, but for the first time, we have rallied together as a people, determined that the values, the expressions of the people on the ground would be giving expression in this house. And we are very grateful that indeed it has been. And we trust that the process will terminate very well. Thank you very much. And for all the gallant leaders of the House, both of the minority and the majority that have fought through, we stand by you. Ghana supports you, and we know you will make us proud. Thank you very much. So thank you, Rev. I believe that three themes stand out from all the presentations. We've been very refreshed by Uganda. Thank you so much. You've been a trailblazer. Let's give it up if this is okay for Uganda. Thank you for being the firstborn on this course for us and showing us that it can be done irrespective of the price you have had to pay, the global or diplomatic embarrassment and all of that. But three themes quickly as discussant, and then we are out of here. First, the question of our sovereignty as a continent and individual countries. Thank you for saying it out loud, that if there is any time that Africa must stand together, not so much as just a slogan, but as a survival, is now. We can't afford to be at each other's throat when our individual sovereignties are on the ground. Collectively, we stand stronger than divided. And so the issue of sovereignty that is even being re-echoed in the presentation, I believe it's something that we would be pondering on, but not just to walk away as a talk shop, but to forge out the strategies, the practical strategies, how we can protect our individual sovereignties, whether at the backside of civil society, and my members within that community also represented here, or as lawmakers or as politicians. So sovereignty, that is one. Secondly, the centrality of the family as a development institution, that cannot be overemphasized. That is the treasure of Africa. all around us on the globe, we have seen how the institution of family has been bastardized to the point that we no longer can identify what family looks like. But thanks be to God, when the lens is pointed to Africa, the greatest treasure that Africa can teach the world is family values. We can't afford to lose that. Thank you that you are committed, and this conference will go down history, that we will protect that. It is central to our survival. It is central to our politics. It's central to our development. It's central to everything. So we won't leave it to say that we want to pursue economic development and all the other gains, but we will put family values as the front burner issue when it comes to policy, it comes to practice, whatever it takes. Then thirdly, which are just the 3 points I wanted to tease out, the need for an Africa-led solutions to Africa's social challenges. And I'm so excited, I still a quote from the president's speech that was sweetly delivered by the chief of staff, talking about the fact that the future of Africa will not be written for Africa, but it will be written by Africa. Can we give it a round of applause to our president? I think that sums the spirit of why we are here. We need to protect our voice, our capacity to determine how we govern ourselves, even if we make mistakes. And I believe even the independence that many of all of us have enjoyed by the struggles of our forebears, the resounding rhetoric or reasoning or raison d'etre, let me try a little of my fake French, had been that we should have the capacity to govern ourselves. Self-government is still the mantra that is badly needed here and now. We should. Nobody should try protecting us. Even if we make mistakes, it is us. And we should be given the space, just as we have allowed the others to have the space to experiment different forms of governance. We should be given the space to do the same. It is Africa's right, and we demand it stays so. Thank you. And so on that score, thank you very much. On that score, I just say that for Ghana's experience in traveling up to this point, I would say what stands very refreshing for me is that this whole movement for seeking and protecting family values had not started with a political class. The political class just helped with the momentum, but it has been a citizen-led approach. And I say so because that is where I am coming from. Civil society organizations, religious organizations, and across that sphere, that is not partisan. But the beauty of it is to see how the political sphere within the Chamber of Parliament, whether with the minority side or the majority, and then swapping majority, minority, whichever, it's been beautiful. And so the key for me to leave at this conversation is that whilst we jaw at the high, leadership level, we should not forget that the greatest validation of whatever we come up with is that we make it citizen-led. Let's allow the voices of the people to lead this campaign. It gives such great validity to it that no other nation can rise up against us, because at the heart of democracy is the will of the people, the mandate of the people. And so if democracy that we have adopted and adapted is what we are practicing, and we are allowing the people to lead the pack, because, for instance, in Ghana, a poll indicated that over 80% of Ghanaians were willing to stand by family values, then we must allow the citizens to lead this campaign. And on that note, I'd say that Ubuntu, we don't exist without your existence, and you don't exist without our existence. That is the spirit of Africa. I pray that the spirit of Haile Selassie will still rise amongst us. The spirit of Kwame Nkrumah will still rise amongst us. All our forebears that have stood and fought for us will still be echoed in our voices in this room, so that they would look back and say, it's been worth it. Thank you very much.
Please, another applause for these two speakers. I can say the audience has been very good. You have been so attentive. You have listened very carefully. Now I request 2, 3, not necessary questions. You can even compliment. Please. Quickly, so that because we are behind schedule, so that we can be here on time by the end of the day. I thank you. Some questions or compliment. Help me to, where? Yes. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks to our honorable members of parliament, and thanks to Uganda. Our Reverend Minister spoke about, he says, education without spiritual development and morals produces intelligent criminals. I agree with him. We're talking about African values and family. I think that we need to start from the basic, which is the educational system. Why should we in Africa today give our children education that takes the contact hours? Our children go to school from Monday to Saturday nowadays. Sometimes they come home around 5 o'clock, thinking that everything might be studied in the schools. If indeed these things will be implemented for us to have a progress, we need the families have to also have some contact hours with their children. You cannot tell me that children to go to school from Monday, Friday, sometimes even on Saturday, they have to go to classes in some jurisdictions. I don't think it's fair. And when you come to talk about child labor, in the days, all of us know the importance of education. But in the olden days, when there is a vacation, our children comes home. Sometimes we go to farms. They help us as a family. They learn from their parents. But today, even in their vacations, they still have to go to classes without the input of family values in our children. So to start with, I think that is very good. This conference is good for us, but we need to go to the basis that families, parents, all of us in this chamber, I think we have families, but sometimes, how many hours do we spend with our children at home? So I think that we need to also build that foundation. When we train them as a parent, education is good, and they can have also to learn from us as a parent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that compliment. Yes. This time I will come this side.
Clotilde Mutita, République démocratique du Congo, rapporteur adjoint au bureau de l'Assemblée. Je représente mon président, le président de l'Assemblée au niveau de notre pays. Alors, je félicite le révérend et madame, et surtout maman Sarah, tout à l'heure par rapport... C'est ma première fois de participer. Alors, j'ai été vraiment émerveillée, je vous en félicite, je vous encourage. Alors, je voudrais peut-être apporter un plus par rapport à la réalité que je venais de constater, c'est que nous sommes en train de vivre une interreligiosité. Et donc, la présence de plusieurs confessions religieuses qui font en sorte que, pour moi, c'est une réponse par rapport à beaucoup de conflits dans notre continent. Alors, si cet espace, l'espace de la conférence interparlementaire, peut aussi être cette réalité de vivre cette expérience interreligieuse, chrétiens, musulmans et toutes les confessions peuvent se mettre ensemble. Pour moi, c'est une résolution très efficace de certains conflits africains. Et donc là, je voudrais vraiment que cela soit plus considéré. Et une autre dimension, c'est que comment pensez-vous élaborer les politiques publiques africaines de protection de la famille, de l'éducation parentale? Tout à l'heure, le révérend venait de souligner, et même Madame l'a dit, autrement, nous fabriquons ou nous façonnons des intellectuels criminels. Et c'est ce que nous sommes en train de vivre maintenant, par cette inculturation, toutes ces réalités autour du numérique, et qui fait en sorte que nous ne pouvons pas nous séparer. Alors, comment produire des politiques publiques qui peuvent accompagner tout ce que nous sommes en train de vouloir établir? Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. Another one? This side? Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'm very grateful for all that everyone has shared.
Please say your name and where you're coming from.
I'm Miracle Damanka. I'm with Advocates for Christ Ghana, and then also Partnership for Family Strengthening. And I just want to share that mostly as Ghana, but many other nations, we are very good with policy. We have the right documents in place. We are able to ascend the Hague Convention. We are able to ascend a lot of policies, but the implementation becomes an issue. May it never be said that we gathered here in spite of all the many things that are important to us. We left them, came here to craft policies that will just stay on the shelves. We should be able to educate our populace, put these things into practice, and see actual change and transformation for the families that we are trying to protect. Thank you very much.
I think everybody has listened to
Yes.
the submission.
Nigeria. Yeah. Okay.
Whatever we are saying here, we should put them into practice. It should not be good policies to be on the shelves. But I can tell you today, we are marking a very historical moment where we shall sign on the charter, have a charter, and move. Since we have many of the members of parliament here and all over Africa, I think we should move together. I thank you. Another one, the last one.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I was just wanting to, I've spoken before, just to insist, my name is Sonny Ekwosi from Nigeria, to insist, just as the young lady has said, that we should not live here without specific, concrete assignments that should be given to specific people to implement in the next coming months. Why I'm saying this is that other people, that's the people that are anti-life and anti-family, they don't take a vacation at all. As we speak in Nigeria, they are lobbying for certain curriculum to be used in Nigerian schools, curriculum that has to do with LGBT, sex education, masturbation. They never take any vacation. The point I mentioned before, I've come all the way from Lagos to this place. I don't want to go empty-handed. It would be a waste of time. I have attended so many conferences. I go to the UN, I see many things. After that, nothing happens. So, by the time we are ending this conference, can we take specific assignments? I'm ready for one, for Nigeria, okay? We fight in Nigeria 24 hours because our enemies never take any vacation. So I don't want to come here for nothing. At the end of it, we should take specific assignments, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that homework. That homework is for all of us. Honorable Sarah and your core group and all of us should sit and ensure that this man has something to take home. I thank you so much, everybody, for being a very good audience, and I thank my speakers who have been able to bring us to a good level. God bless you.
can we give it out to them once again? Can we clap for them? Thank you, Reverend Doctor. Thank you, distinguished Honorable Nathan, and thank you, Madam. We'll go straight to the next item, and I want to request that we move straight to the last item. I'm told some of them were questions, but I know who answered it. As the discussant and the presenter are presenting, those questions will be answered in the subsequent next one. Now, distinguished colleagues, we have a little challenge. Two of our colleagues are online. They are on Zoom. We've given them 3 o'clock to do their presentation. Unfortunately, they've been online since 3 o'clock. So we are taking the last item, but not the last one. We'll jump the solidarity message and then the discussion on sovereignty, culture, and implication for law. So we are moving straight to the Charter and existing human rights instrument. And I would like to invite the moderator for this discussion, the Deputy Speaker of Burundi, the second Deputy Speaker of Burundi, Honorable Madame Cleetold Kampimbi. Sorry if I butchered your name. I'm a Ghanaian. Can we please give it out to her? Can we clap for her as she takes the podium? We have the lead discussant, who is our Commissioner Annan, who is our Commissioner or Advisor on Human Rights issues in Parliament here. Can you please join the Right Honorable Speaker? Then we also have Ms. Sarah Nkumicha. Sorry if I didn't pronounce the name well. She is from NHRC Uganda. She will also be joining. Then we have Ms. I'm sure she knows herself. Namizata Zangari from OIC. That's the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. Is she here? Okay, please, let's give it out to her as she takes the podium. Okay. Then 2 of our distinguished panelists, Tony Ojuku, who is online now, and then the person from Morocco. The 2 of them are online. I don't want to pronounce the name wrongly again. So, Madam Speaker, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Honorable members of Parliament, good afternoon. I'm happy to be in front of you. I was saying that I'm happy to be in front of you to Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be in front of you to deal with a topic which has been stated before, the draft African Charter on Family, Sovereignty, and Values, and existing human rights instruments. I will be moderating this topic. Your Excellencies, honorable speakers and members of parliament, representatives of national human rights institutions, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my singular honor to moderate this important dialogue on draft African Charter on Family and Sovereignty and Values and existing human rights instruments. This conversation comes at a significant moment for our continent. The draft charter has generated considerable debates across Africa and beyond. A number of international and regional human rights organizations and civil society groups have characterized the charter as anti-rights. Such criticism deserves neither dismissal nor hostility. Rather, it calls for dialogue, engagement, and mutual understanding. Burundi, my country, is not unfamiliar with such pressure. As a nation, we have encountered criticism and diplomatic pressure in international forums, but we have consistently affirmed the dignity of every human life, the centrality of family as the neutral and fundamental unit of society, and the responsibility of the state to protect children from exploitation, abuse, trafficking, and harmful practices. We have done so not in opposition of human rights, but because we believe these principles are themselves some fundamental human rights concerns. The purpose of this session is therefore neither a confrontation nor accusation, rather it's a dialogue. We are gathered here to examine whether the aspirations embodied in the draft African Charter are compatible with existing regional, international human rights instruments, and consider how Africa can articulate its own contribution to the evolving human rights discourse while remaining faithful to its cultural, moral, and constitutional traditions. We are especially privileged to engage with institutions whose mandate is to promote, protect, and monitor human rights. National human rights institutions play a vital role in advising governments and holding them accountable in discharge of their obligations to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. Their independence, expertise, and commitment to human dignity make them indispensable partners in this conversation. Our distinguished panel reflects both regional diversity and international experience. The Uganda Human Rights Commission, National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria, Human Rights Council of Morocco, and the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Their perspective will enrich our understanding of how human rights institutions view the relationship between universal human rights norms, national sovereignty, family protection, cultural cultural identity, and welfare of children. As a moderator, I encourage an open, respectful, and intellectually honest exchange. Let us listen carefully, question thoughtfully, and seek common ground where it exists. Above all, let us remember that our shared objective is the flourishing of human persons, families, communities, and nations across Africa. With those remarks, I welcome our distinguished panelists and invite all to engage in a constructive and fruitful dialogue. Let's call Dr. Anthony. I'm sorry if I mispronounce their names. I'm not used to them. Forgive me. Dr. Anthony Okechukwu Ojukwu is the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria. The country's independent institution mandated to promote and protect human rights. A distinguished lawyer and human rights advocate, he was called to Nigeria bar in 1986 and has served in several senior positions with NHRC before becoming its chief executive. He is widely recognized for his work in advancing human rights, strengthening democratic governance, promoting access to justice, protecting vulnerable groups, including women and children. In 2025, he was elected president of the Network of National Human Rights Institutions in West Africa, reflecting his leadership and influence across the region. He is a recipient of the National Honor of Office in the Order of Federal Republic and holds the prestigious rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria. His extensive experience makes him a respected voice on the intersection of human rights, governance, national sovereignty, and public policy in Africa. Second, we listen to Miss Sarah. No? Sorry? Yes, Miss Sarah Nangumisa. She is the Director of Regional Services at the Uganda Human Rights Commission. She holds Bachelor of Arts in Social Work and Social Administration and Master's degree in Social Sector Planning and Management from Makerere University. Since joining the Uganda Human Rights Commission in 2002, she was served in various capacities, including investigations officer, and the regional human rights officer. She has extensive experience in human rights, promoting and protection, with particular interest in children's rights, women's rights, detainees' rights, and peaceful building. She currently oversees the Commission's regional human rights program and operations across. Last but not least, we are going to listen to Miss Camelia Rauyo. Namiza? Camelia. Are you from which country? Are you from which country? De quel pays?
Camila is
Yes, we
representing.
are going to listen to Madame Namizata Miete Sangare, a member of the standing committee, member of the Independent Standing Committee on Human Rights. Okay, let's first listen to Mr. Tony. Oh, sorry. Mrs. Namizata Sangare is a distinguished human rights leader from Côte d'Ivoire and president of the National Human Rights Council of Côte d'Ivoire. I already said it. She is widely recognized for her commitment to the promotion of human rights, democracy, peace, and good governance. Prior to her human rights work, she enjoyed a successful career in the insurance sector and founded the Organization of Active Women of Côte d'Ivoire to advance women's empowerment and participation in public life. She has participated in numerous international election observation missions and currently serves as a member of the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation. Now, we are going to listen to Dr. About the Charter and the existing human rights instruments, trying to answer to the following questions. How do we prevent external actors from calling the Charter we are going to adopt during this conference? How Africans are going to prevent external actors from calling the Charter as backsliding on human rights? This question will be answered by everybody. And the second question is, will the implementation of the Charter be easy? What strategy do African countries, especially the founding members, plan to use? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of Parliament and all our invited guests. I've been asked to do the honorable thing of being the lead discussant for this session. Okay. So what I'll do is my mission is very simple, is to introduce the Charter and to critically examine it as means of stimulating discussion. So in terms of methodology, I just decided to give a brief presentation. And the outline is as follows. I will try to talk about this whole concept called human rights. Please permit me if it appears that we are trying to overflog the concepts. So I'll put it in perspective. Talks about human rights and sovereignty, give an overview of the Charter, then link it to the existing human rights instruments, then also talk about the points of convergence or compatibility of the Charter with existing human rights frameworks, the challenges and opportunities, and try to proffer a way forward. I think what we are doing this afternoon is to start from the point of view that we are dealing with human beings. So human rights is about human beings, or a person simply because it's a human being. I think we all know that. Human rights are equal because we are human beings, and it's alienable. We all know that. Then, because it's alienable, it's universal, regardless of where one finds him or herself. So whether you are criminally accused or convicted or a perverse person, I think when we say a perverse person, we know what it is. You have rights. So from this context, we are saying that it doesn't matter who you are. So far as you are human beings, there are some values that you have to be more or less accorded, or which you come with as a human being. And these values are liberty.
Sorry, please, one moment, sorry. Let's remind you that we have each 7 minutes because we have also 2 persons online. There's Mr. Tony and Madame Amina from Morocco. They are online. So each of you have 7 minutes. Thank you.
Anyway, so then let me just, as we discuss human rights within the context of African values, I just want us to know that human rights also permits, though they are universal, they permit what we call your cultures, or what cultures which are very peculiar to particular communities or regions. So Africa is a region. So whatever values or cultural, norms we have, human rights respect that. And that is what we call the relativist, approach. So if you are an African and you have peculiar values, human rights allow that. But human rights also says that as your values are unique, it should be very, very compatible with rights that every human being, regardless of where the person finds him or herself, should be accorded. Then we said that when it comes to sovereignty, we are not talking, the whole charter is based on sovereignty. Sovereignty says that so far as you are a state or a human being, you have that autonomy. And that autonomy as a state gives you the opportunity or the right to make your own laws. And that's what we call sovereign authority. So human right does not stop you or do not stop any state from making laws to more or less cure a mischief which is harmful to society. But as you are doing that law, human rights too says that because there are rights which are universal, it more or less deal with what we call your sovereignty, or sovereignty does not become absolute. That's why human rights are extraterritorial and make sure that whatever laws you do has to be consistent with what we call international custom. And the lawyers may call that one use caution, because that your state practice or whatever you do based on your values must be consistent with international law. The law to allows you, human rights will allow you to object. So people talk about, we are talking about LGBTI now. In a case, LGBTI are no rights. They are no rights. The acts is what we are talking about. If somebody engaged in an act which our cultural values say they are harmful, then we proscribe that as criminal, and that is the acts. But as a human being, you are entitled, whether you are a criminal or you are a gay, you are entitled to certain rights. Then in the context of the charter, I was trying to say that the charter and the instruments that are available are what we call the International Bill of Rights. So the charter must be consistent with the existing Bill of Rights and what we call the 9 core human rights treaties, which the world or the member states, and I'm sure all of us here belong to the UN system, we have more or less subscribed to. Because the charter talks about sovereignty, I've tried to look at the various provisions. And all the provisions we look at on sovereignty, education, health, food, economic development, political, and what have you, are consistent with the International Bill of Rights, as well as the existing human rights frameworks at our regional level. And for purposes of this discussion, I want us to refer to the African Charter, because it's a unique charter. The African Charter, which I've brought all of us here, is the only charter in the world which goes beyond what we call the individual rights. It's a charter which takes into account the African reality. That is why it goes beyond the individual and talk about people. The people in this context look at our reality. And it sees Africa as a communitarian society. So we have communal values, and that's why when we deal with ourselves, we are not dealing with ourselves as, individuals. So it goes beyond what we call the first generation rights, and it answers the questions of Ubuntu. So it's a collective rights document. It also guarantees the right to self-determination and sovereignty. So if you look at Article 20, 21, 22, 23, and 2022, for instance, it says that all peoples, for their own ends, must freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic and social development. And also, they must have the freedom to dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice arising from any international cooperation and based on the principle of mutual benefit. It guarantees the right of all peoples to free themselves from foreign domination. We are talking about. So the African Charter has answered all the questions. It also guarantees that all people shall have the right to freely determine their economic, social, and cultural development with due regard to their freedom and identity and the enjoyment of common heritage. This African Charter. So all that we are doing with the African Charter, I'm missing the two, the Banjul Charter, let me call it the Banjul Charter, is consistent with what the African Charter is provided for. Article 17, for instance, also talks about the duty of states to promote and protect morals and traditional values. So it is very compliant. Article 18 of the African Charter states that family shall be the natural unit and the basis of society. Therefore, the state has a duty to take care of the physical and moral health of the society. It also imposes duty, which has to do with our values, and it says that every individual has the duty to preserve the harmonious development of the family and to work for the cohesion and respect of the family, and to respect parents and maintain them. It also talks about preservation and strengthening of positive African values in relation to other members of society, in the spirit of tolerance and consultation. So what are the points of convergence? It concerns considerable areas like protection of children from harm, right to life, education, right to education, right to religious and cultural freedom, right to marry and found a family through procreation, right to self-determination, I've said it, right to development. Again, that is the only charter which talks about the African reality. Human rights is not about just freedom of speech, freedom to participate, or freedom of choice. It talks about our reality, our underdevelopment. So that is the only charter in the world which talks about development as a human right. So So it's addressing our poverty and extreme underdevelopment, and which for me is very critical. Right to food, right to a secure environment, or what we call intergenerational rights, and the right to self-determination. Freely dispose of your natural wealth and resources through international cooperation. So when we come to right, our first contributor was talking about how we enter into contracts in terms of trade arrangements, and our resources are more or less become a curse. You get oil, you get gold, you got all these minerals, but when it comes to entering into international trade agreements, you are the mercy of the superpowers or the metropolis. So what are the challenges of the Charter? Sovereignty cannot be achieved without international cooperation. So more or less, the Charter is heavy, or is so, internalized in the sense that it sees international cooperation more or less an evasion. And it's not consistent with Article 55 and 56 of the UN Charter, which talks about development assistance, of course, based on mutual respect. In terms of strengthening national political and legal institutions, the Charter is a bit wary about international cooperation, and it's more or less suspicious of multilateralism and bilateralism. So talking about the UN system and its mechanisms. And I can tell on authority that international cooperation and assistance does not necessarily mean foreign domination of your economic space. Definitely we have political independence, but our economies are dominated from the metropolis. I don't want us to revisit 1960 and be talking about the new international economic order. We've gone beyond that. What are the opportunities that the Charter gives? It gives us the opportunity to refocus on positive African values of communitarianism and solidarity as leverage for our political and economic advancement. It seeks to confront the systemic challenge of overdependence on external development aid by African states without recourse to their domestic resource potentials. It also seeks to rekindle the vision of self-determination of African states to combat contemporary neo-colonial tendencies, including cultural imperialism. It affirms or reaffirms the values and identity of the African as key drivers of integration and African unity. So in conclusion, I want to state that human rights, values, and principles are universal and therefore non-negotiable or susceptible to trade-offs. Human rights, values, and principles respect state sovereignty and acknowledge the existence of regional peculiarities or cultural diversity in the African society. The Charter, to some extent, converges with human rights instruments. Nevertheless, there are challenges grounded in human rights deficits that potentially may undermine its efficacy and survival as an instrument, aimed at addressing threats of erosion of sovereignty of African states and their family values. So it has laudable vision of building a sovereign.
Please, let's applaud him and give the floor, because there are others who are still waiting on.
So I end on the note that the Charter, in terms of human rights, should be consistent with rights that have attained the status of norms of jus caution in international law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The second one, yes, the floor is yours. Please do respect the timing, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. My name is Sarah Nahumitsa from Uganda. I work with Uganda Human Rights Commission, a national human rights institution in Uganda with a mandate to protect and promote human rights in the country. And since its inception, we have been in accredited A status, and I bring greetings from my chairperson, who wasn't able to be here with us. The presenter that has just left the floor has dwelled a lot on the African Charter on human and people's rights, and so I'll go to the international human rights instruments mainly. We are looking at the compatibility of the African Charter on protection of the family, sovereignty, and religious and cultural values. Now, this charter seeks to preserve, protect, and strengthen the African family, sovereignty, religious and cultural values from the African context. The basis of doing this is that there are some ideologies, some theories, and policies that are pushing for an agenda that may contravene the African values in the family and sovereignty, the way we know them in Africa. So I'll go and look at specific rights that the Charter brings forward and how these rights are in line or are in agreement with the existing human rights standards. We begin by, first of all, the definition of the family and the fact that the family needs protection. When you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Article 16, Sub-Article 3, it defines the family as the natural and fundamental group unit of society, and therefore is entitled to be protected by state and society. The family, being the smallest unit of society, is an amalgamation of what society is, and therefore it's very important that it's protected. And this charter seeks to do this, and this is what the UDHR says. Even the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights in Article 10, Sub-Article 1, states the same. We have the Covenant on the Rights of Persons with Disability, also stating protection of the family. And then we have the international, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child in Article 18, also seeking for protection of the family by the states. So in this way, the draft charter is very much aligned with the existing human rights instruments. When you look at the right to life, where the charter seeks to protect children, especially because of the advent of legalizing abortion by the Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights, and then distortion of some definitions with the advent of SOGI. So the right to life for children is protected under the Convention on the Rights of the Child in Article 6. It states that children have an inherent right to life, and that states should ensure that they are protected. It's possible, to the extent possible, for survival and development. The Universal Declaration, Article 3, gives the right of life to everybody, not only children. For everything that we do as adults, whether as parents or as leaders, it's clear in the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, as well as the Convention on the Rights of Children, that it should be done in the interest of children. But with the advent of some of these policies, there is what is called body autonomy, and children, this includes children, they will have a right to decide without the guidance of children, or without the guidance of their parents. And yet whatever has to be done for the child, their best interest must be put in context. So in this way, the Charter very much so agrees with the existing human rights instruments. And then children also are entitled to parental care. This is properly articulated in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. They are clearly articulated. Then also the Charter seeks to protect and preserve the responsibilities and the rights of parents that they have on their children, which some of these new policies take away, because now the children can decide to do whatever they want without the consent and without the guidance of their children. So we have so many of the existing human rights instruments that are protecting this. The CRC Article 7 does that, and the children are entitled to be taken care of by their children, by their parents, also including the legal guardians. We have the African Charter on Rights and Welfare of the Children, Article 19, also protecting
1 minute
that.
left, please. 1 minute left.
Okay, let me go to the challenges, I think. Having looked through the Charter, I see there are certain provisions that may need review. When you look at Article 7 of the Charter, subsection B, preserving African health and traditional healing knowledge. This is very important, it's key, but note should be taken regarding rudimentary African practices. For example, we have what we used to call traditional birth attendants in Uganda, and given the fact that we have had milestones in the reduction of infant and maternal mortality rates, so the Charter needs to be cautious about this. Then 2, Article 7, Sub-Article 1E of the draft Charter states that for any vaccination mandates...
Thank you, Madam. Thank you. There are still 3 persons waiting for us. There are 2 persons online. Thank you very much. Let's applaud her, please. Let's call Camilla. Camilla from Morocco, so that she can share with us. The floor is yours. Please, the technical services. We need to hear from Camilla. 5 minutes.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Honorable speakers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Camilla, and I'm the representative of the National Institution of Human Rights in Morocco, CNDH. It's an honor to speak at this panel and to do so on behalf of Mrs. Amina Bouayesh, who is the president of the CNDH and the chair of the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, who extends her warmest greetings to this conference and to everyone who has worked to bring it to this 4th edition. The panel before us asks how this charter process relates to existing human rights instruments. It is a real question, and it deserves a direct answer. One that starts not from legal texts, but from what we actually observe in the lives of our African families. So what do we see on the ground? Across this continent, the family remains the most important protective institution that exists. Not the states, not international bodies, but the family. It absorbs shocks that no formal system could absorb. It transmits values, language, and identity across generations. It provides care where care systems do not reach. Its resilience over centuries and across every kind of external pressure is something that deserves genuine respect and genuine protection. At the same time, families are not always safe spaces for everyone within them. The most vulnerable members, such as children, women without independent legal standing, elderly persons with no resources of their own, are sometimes the ones least protected precisely because they are inside their family. This is not a comfortable observation, of course, but it is a consistent one, seen across different countries and different contexts. And a framework that is serious about protecting African families has to be honest about this the full picture. These two truths are not in contradiction. They are both part of what protecting the family actually means. I will build my intervention over four main observations, and I will try to be very quick in my intervention. The first observation on the relationship with the existing instruments. International human rights standards are not external imposition. They are universal commitments negotiated and agreed upon by states, including African states, and as a shared framework for protecting the dignity of every person. The foundation is not the question. What is in question is what this conference rightly addresses. It is how those standards are applied, by whom, and with what degree of genuine consultation with the societies they are meant to serve. When implementation lacks local ownership and institutional grounding, standards that are right in principle can produce some outcomes that fall short in practice. This is a problem of implementation, not a problem with the standards themselves. The African human rights architecture, the Banjul Charter, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and more recently, the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, was built precisely to translate universal human rights commitments into the specific realities of our continent. These instruments do not stand apart from the international framework. They deepen it. They bring it closer to the ground. They address the particular vulnerabilities that African families and individuals face in language and through mechanisms that are rooted in African legal traditions and accountable to African populations. The Charter process now before this conference belongs in the same lineage, not as a departure from international human rights standards, but as a contribution to their fuller and more grounded application. So the question before this conference is therefore how to ensure that those instruments are implemented with the depth, the ownership, and the institutional capacity that actually serve African families. That requires engagement, not distance. And it requires African institutions, parliaments, national human rights institutions, courts, civil society to be active participants in how universal standards are interpreted and applied, rather than passive recipients of frameworks designed elsewhere.
2 minutes left.
The second observation on putting women at the center. It is not possible to speak seriously about protecting African families or family values without speaking about the position of women within the family, because in practice, it is women who carry the family. They are the primary caregivers. They transmit culture, language, and moral formation from one generation to the next. They hold extended family networks together under conditions of often extreme difficulty. In contexts of conflict, displacement, or economic crisis, it is frequently women who keep the family intact when everything else is falling apart. This means that protecting women, their legal standing within the family, their access to healthcare, their protection from violence, their ability to make decisions is not a separate agenda from protecting the whole family. It is what protecting the family concretely requires. These are not two different goals pulling in different directions. They are the same goal seen from different angles. And the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, for all the legitimate questions it has raised about some of its language, exists because violence against women within family settings is a documented reality across our continent. Acknowledging that reality is not an attack on the family. It is a sign of taking the family seriously enough to want it to be a safe place for everyone inside it. I'm moving to the third observation on children and the logic of
technical service help us so that we can listen to the following? Doctor.
I will be very quick. The same logic applies to children. International human rights laws, including the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the African Charter on the Rights of the Children, recognizes the family as the natural environment for the child's growth. Parents and families are the first and most important protectors of children. But the protection of children is only complete when it reaches them wherever they are. So a framework that protects children from external threats but has nothing to say about the situations where harm originates closer to home, leaves a gap
to hear the following.
That's
Dr.
a big gap where children can fall into. I think I will
Thank
conclude,
you very much.
I will conclude,
Please,
in less than 1 minute.
so that we can listen to
Sovereignty
Dr.
and values
Ojukwu.
are very powerful anchors. So they reflect what our African societies have always known, that human dignity is not abstract. It is lived inside families.
In our language we
protected
say,
by
"Uhinga
that-
ntiwusezerana," which means that he goes on speaking. So let's listen to Dr. Ojukwu now. 5 minutes, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator and co-discussants and colleagues. It is really heartwarming to be part of this conference, which has Africa at the heart of its constitution. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are catching you very well. Goes on.
Thank you very much. The duty before us is to look at the Charter in comparison with other international human rights instruments. And as national human rights institutions that have the duty for promotion and protection of human rights, I would like to also look at how this is going to affect us in our work, as national human rights institutions, because at the end of the day, we shall have the duty to implement this charter. Now, if you look at the charter's provision, a lot has been said about the family. There's no doubt that the family plays a key role in the upbringing of a nation, the family, and so on and so forth. And the attitude of the Charter to the family is also in consonance with other international human rights instruments. My colleagues from Uganda have pointed out the UDHR and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, as well as other international instruments. The issue of sovereignty, whereas the Charter looks at sovereignty as a national, more of national sovereignty and resistance to any external influence in law, other international instruments look at sovereignty from a wider perspective, from the issue of self-determination to the issue of control over one's economic resources and other things like that. Also, on the issue of religion and culture, the Charter is very heavy on the issue of African religions and cultural values to be involved in policy making and interpretation of rights. Other international instruments like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in Article 18 and 18.1 and 2 also share the same sentiment about freedom to practice your religion, and your faith and belief and so on and so forth. So, but when it gets to parental rights, you find out that the charter is very heavy on emphasizing that parents have a primary decision makers regarding children's education, health, moral upbringing, and so on and so forth. And this is a little bit in contradiction with some other international instruments, like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which clearly states that children should participate in decisions affecting them, and they should be given opportunity to express their opinions, and so on and so forth. So, but the charter seems to suggest that the child, the parents should talk for the children and not children talk for themselves. I can give you an example on one of the advantages of children, hearing the opinion of children in taking decisions concerning them. If you travel and you want to buy things for your daughter, for instance, you may want to buy the best shoe that will cost you $500 and all that. But if you take for 1 minute and call your daughter and say, okay, Juju, what do you want me to buy for you? You'll be shocked that maybe he will say you should buy her a Barbie doll or something which will cost you only $20. And so involving children in taking decisions concerning them, I think is a valid provision in the Child Rights Act. The controversial area is really
Dr.
the issue
Tony,
of sexual and reproductive rights, which
2 more minutes for Dr. Tony.
Which the chapter absolutely rejects, as being a kind of imposition on African values. But however, you find out that in other African instruments passed by African Parliament, you have the Maputo Protocol, which is an African instrument, which has also given women the right to fertility and to control their contraception and so on and so forth. So these are two conflicting voices from Africa. How are you going to deal with that? The African Commission on Human and People's Rights has also interpreted the African Charter that in terms of discrimination, sexual orientation and sexual gender identity cannot be used as grounds for discrimination. So how do you deal with two documents coming from Africa and that are all in opposite direction? On the issue of gender and sexuality, of course, the Charter, has a very big critique on understanding gender.
Sorry, I'm afraid I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you, please. It would be better to share the document we have with us. Now? We are going to listen to the last one. We are sorry. I apologize for interrupting you. The time is running. Then let's listen the last panelist. Yes, Madam, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I'll be concluding there then. Thank you very much.
Distingués participants, mesdames et messieurs, c'est un immense honneur pour moi de participer à cette importante rencontre organisée autour du thème « Consolider le consensus parlementaire, promouvoir la charte africaine sur les valeurs familiales et la souveraineté ». Je propose qu'on projette ma communication en anglais, s'il vous plaît. La régie. J'exprime donc ma profonde gratitude aux organisateurs pour avoir réuni parlementaires, experts, décideurs, leaders religieux et représentants de la société civile. Je suis la représentante de la Commission permanente indépendante des droits de l'homme de l'Organisation de la coopération islamique. L'OCI, comme vous le savez, est la deuxième plus grande organisation intergouvernementale après l'ONU, regroupant 57 États membres sur 80 continents et sur 4 continents et représentant plus de 2 milliards de personnes. Et la CPIDH, la Commission permanente indépendante des droits de l'homme, accorde une attention particulière à la famille en tant qu'unité naturelle et fondamentale de la société. Mesdames et messieurs, pour le premier point, je vais essayer de développer en quelques points le rôle central de la famille dans la société. Cela a été déjà fait, mais on ne le dira jamais assez. À travers l'histoire de la famille, la famille nucléaire et ou élargie est le premier cadre d'éducation, de protection, de solidarité et de socialisation. C'est au sein de la famille que se transmettent les valeurs morales, se forgent les identités et se consolide la cohésion sociale. La famille demeure l'unité naturelle et fondamentale de la société, pilier essentiel de la stabilité sociale et de la paix durable. Aujourd'hui, les institutions familiales font face à des mutations profondes. Nous avons la mondialisation, les difficultés économiques, les influences du numérique, l'évolution des modes de vie. Et dans de nombreuses sociétés, nous constatons la baisse de taux de mariage, la hausse des divorces, le recul de la solidarité intergénérationnelle et la fragmentation sociale croissante. Et pour le deuxième point, je vais faire le lien entre la famille, les droits de l'homme et la diversité culturelle. Et sur cette question, je dirais que les questions relatives à la famille constituent un des sujets les plus sensibles du débat international sur les droits de l'homme. Les nombreux États de l'OCI considèrent que les questions liées au mariage doivent être appréhendées à la lumière de leur contexte religieux, culturel et constitutionnel. Des préoccupations existent sur la promotion dans les centres internationaux, dans les enceintes internationales, de concepts ne faisant pas l'objet d'un consensus universel entre les États. Les débats sur l'orientation sexuelle et l'identité de genre SOGI suscitent des approches divergentes au niveau juridique, culturel et politique. L'universalité des droits de l'homme doit s'accompagner, nous pensons, d'un respect égal de la diversité culturelle, des valeurs religieuses et de l'égalité souveraine des États. Le dialogue doit reposer sur l'inclusivité, le respect mutuel et la construction d'un véritable consensus, non sur la conditionnalité ou la polarisation. Mesdames et messieurs, sur le troisième point que je vais développer sur le chapitre, sous le titre de la famille dans les instruments internationaux des droits de l'homme, on l'a déjà dit ici, les instruments internationaux ne disent pas autre chose. Vous avez à l'article 16 de la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme qui stipule que la famille est l'élément naturel et fondamental de la société et a droit à la protection de la société et de l'État. Le pacte international relatif aux droits civils et politiques PIDCP reconnaît la protection de la famille. Le pacte international relatif aux droits économiques, sociaux et culturels établit les obligations des États. La Convention relative aux droits de l'enfant impose la protection de l'assistance les plus larges possibles. Et ces instruments consacrent la responsabilité des États de soutenir les familles dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions sociales essentielles. Pour ce qui est du quatrième point, je vais vous partager la perspective de l'OCI et de la CPIDH. La charte de l'OCI reconnaît la famille comme cellule naturelle et essentielle de la société et appelle les États membres à préserver son rôle. La déclaration de Jeddah de 2017 a été adoptée lors de la première conférence ministérielle sur le mariage et la famille. La stratégie de l'OCI pour l'autonomisation et l'institution du mariage et de la famille est un cadre politique global. La déclaration du Caire, révisée sur les droits de l'homme, dispositions importantes sur le mariage, la famille, la dignité et la cohésion. La CPIDH poursuit son action à travers la recherche, le dialogue politique et la coopération institutionnelle pour les approches équilibrées.
2 secondes.
Je voudrais juste parler du rôle des parlementaires ici présents et des organes législatifs. Les parlementaires nationaux sont les gardiens des cadres juridiques. Ils doivent veiller à ce que les lois reflètent les principes constitutionnels et les valeurs sociétales. Les cadres législatifs sont clairs et essentiels. Cela voudra dire qu'il faut protéger le mariage et la famille.
Les États doivent conserver le rôle souverain d'élaborer les législations familiales. Les parlementaires doivent élaborer avec soin les recommandations internationales pour assurer leur compatibilité
Merci,
avec
madame.
les
Vous allez
systèmes
nous
juridiques.
partager vos notes
Et en termes de
avec les
recommandations
rapporteurs.
et conclusions, je vous partage ces documents. Je vous remercie.
Honorable members of parliament, due to time constraints, won't be able to take questions from the audience. We are sorry. I would like to say thank you to our panelists, and thank you very much for your attention. And let's think that the charter we are going to adopt is not about going back, but will be going forward. So sovereignty and human rights, we must work together, not fighting each other. And I hope that when we go back home, we will align our family code with the charter. The charter will align our family codes and our ratified treaties with the charter we're going to adopt. Thank you very much. Have a nice night, evening. Sorry.
No questions?
Merci beaucoup, député et Speaker of the Parliament. Housekeeping announcement. We'll be going for, please, let's give it out to them. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Those who want to have a short coffee break, you can go and take a snack out, but we'll continue the program. So if you want to have a coffee, cocoa, Milo, you can just go to the back here and have your coffee and cocoa, but we'll continue. Now we are moving straight to the last, but not the least, because we have a dinner for delegates. Speaker would like to meet all the delegates. We want to move to the first one that we're supposed to have, which is all the speakers, especially the speaker from Madagascar, the speaker, the leader from South Africa, the leader from Burkina Faso, and the leader of the delegation from Nigeria. Okay. So we have, I'm told that Nigeria delegations have not been able to make it. So we have, you are there. Oh, Nigeria is around. Okay, so please, the Speaker of Madagascar, South Africa, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. Please, can you take your seat? With my greatest honor, I want to invite the head of delegation, the Deputy Speaker of Zimbabwe, Right Honorable Chichi Gezi, to take the podium and do justice with all these 4 people within 15 minutes. Thank you very much. 20? 25? Okay, she said 25. As a deputy speaker, I have to obey her. So 25 minutes. If you are given time to speak, please speak and be precise and concise. Thank you.
In South Africa.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. The Speaker of Parliament of Ghana, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, Honorable Speakers and Deputy Speakers of African Parliaments, President and Deputy President of the Senate here present, heads of delegations,
distinguished members of parliament from across our beloved continent, ladies and gentlemen. It is with profound honor and humility that I stand here to moderate this session on the topic sovereignty and cultural preservation, implications for law making and governance. We gather today to affirm that African people have the sovereign right to define, protect, and transmit their values, cultures, and identities. That right must be exercised through our laws, governance, and parliaments. As an assembly of African peoples, we agree that the preservation of family values is not only a domestic concern, but a continental imperative. Honorable delegates, globalization has proven to be not only an economic phenomenon, it is a cultural force that, often without announcement, carries a set of values, assumptions, and social norms shaped by societies far from our shores. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, our continental human rights instrument, and the African Union's Agenda 2063 envision nothing less than an Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. Yet our African sovereignty, particularly cultural sovereignty, faces both external and internal threats. But I have my panelists here who will address both dimensions of these threats. I'm sorry, my panelists were 4, but it seems 2 haven't turned up, so we only have 2 panelists. My panelists today are representatives from parliaments and governments across our continent. For our main panel, I think the main panelist is also not here, the Minister of Tourism. Please, may you confirm? The Minister of Tourism is not. Thank you. She is not around. So our panelists are from South Africa, Honorable Zandile Majosi, and Burkina Faso, Honorable David Lompo. As we begin our panel discussion, I propose the following format to help us make the most of our limited time. Remember, we only have 25 minutes. But if we can save the other 5 minutes, people will be happy for us. Following the panel contributions, I will open the floor for contribution from the plenary for approximately 10 minutes. I will start with Honorable Lombo from Madagascar. Sorry, Honorable Lombo from Burkina Faso.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Je crois que je ne serai pas très long et on doit pouvoir gagner le temps que vous recherchez. Alors, Madame la modératrice, Mesdames et Messieurs les présidents du Parlement, honorables parlementaires, je voudrais tout d'abord remercier les organisateurs de cette importante conférence qui nous réunit autour de 2 questions essentielles pour l'avenir de notre continent, la souveraineté et la préservation de notre identité culturelle. Pour ce qui concerne ce panel, je donnerai juste le cas du Burkina pour que ça puisse peut-être servir d'exemple. Donc pour le Burkina Faso, Ces deux notions sont indissociables. Sous l'impulsion de la révolution progressiste populaire, conduite par le capitaine Ibrahim Traoré, notre pays a fait le choix d'affirmer sa souveraineté en s'appuyant sur ses propres valeurs, son histoire et son patrimoine culturel. Et cette vision se traduit d'abord dans notre action législative que nous menons tous les jours. En 2023, l'Assemblée législative de transition, devenue maintenant Assemblée législative du peuple, a adopté une nouvelle loi portant protection, sauvegarde et valorisation du patrimoine culturel. Ce texte renforce la protection de nos biens culturels contre le trafic illicite et les menaces liées aux conflits armés, tout en imposant la prise en compte du patrimoine dans les grands projets de développement. Nous avons également renforcé la protection des droits d'auteur et engagé la valorisation de produits emblématiques comme le faisceau d'Amfani, alors que je porte devant vous. C'est le tissu tissé par nos braves dames qui font l'artisanat avec donc notre coton. Donc c'est notre coton, ce sont nos fils et nous nous habillons de cela. Et c'est un exemple que je porte ici. Bon, donc également, il y a le chapeau de saponnet et bien d'autres produits que nous avons labellisés pour éviter donc la contrefaçon et le piratage. Au niveau de la gouvernance, le Burkina Faso a mis en place des mécanismes innovants de transmission culturelle, notamment à travers les trésors humains vivants qui permettent de préserver et de transmettre des savoirs ancestraux aux jeunes générations. Cette année, nous en avons eu plusieurs, presque dans toutes les régions. Nous avons nommé des trésors humains vivants dans presque tous les domaines de la culture. Nous avons également instauré le mois du patrimoine burkinabé pour renforcer la conscience historique et culturelle de nos populations, tout en développant une collaboration entre les acteurs de la culture et les forces de défense et de sécurité pour la protection de notre patrimoine. Enfin, nous continuons de promouvoir nos mécanismes traditionnels de cohésion sociale, tels que la parenté à plaisanterie, qui demeure un puissant instrument de paix et de vivre ensemble. Mesdames et messieurs, l'expérience du Burkina montre que la souveraineté politique ne peut être pleinement réalisée sans souveraineté culturelle. Préserver notre identité, protéger nos valeurs et transmettre notre héritage aux générations futures constituent des conditions essentielles pour bâtir une Afrique forte, fière de ses racines et maîtresse de son destin. La patrie ou la mort, nous vaincrons. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lompo. I call upon Honorable Zandile Majosi to take the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for the opportunity. Honorable speakers present at this conference, Honorable of the Religious Fraternity, Honorable of Parliament in attendance, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, thank you most sincerely for the honor to extend the invitation to the Parliament of South Africa to be part of the proceedings. We also appreciate the theme which enjoined us all to share our diverse experiences under topic sovereignty and cultural preservation's implication for lawmaking and governance. To us, as South Africa is taking place during the year the country is celebrating 31 years since the adoption of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. A moment that requires to reflect on the journey traveled since 1996 and assess the extent to which the fundamental freedoms and rights this Constitution has provided and protect it. Did it bring about a society we all envisaged? Allow me to also underscore that all nations throughout civilization define who they are, attempt to agree on what is common and binds their people together. Nations also endeavor to develop consensus or what constitutes their national interests. South Africa is no different from the rest of the world. South Africans as a people have embarked on the process to define the country's national interest so as to have a precise understanding of how we want to project our country internationally. As a beneficiary of many acts, my apologies, I think I have lost my notes. South Africans as a people have embarked on the process to define the country's national interests so as to have a precise understanding of how we want to project our country internationally. As a beneficiary of many acts of selfless solidarity in the past, South Africa believes strongly that what it wishes for its people should be what it wishes for the citizens of the world. In pursuing our nation interest, our decisions are informed by a desire for a just, human, and equitable world order of greater security, peace, dialogue, and economic justice. We are an African country whose fortunes are inextricably connected to those of our sister countries in the region and in the continent. Our foreign policy engagements are therefore anchored in the African agenda. The cornerstone of human rights protection in South Africa is the 1996 Constitution, particularly Chapter 2, which speaks of the Bill of Rights, which is enshrined fundamental rights such as equality, dignity, freedom, and access to justice. The Constitution obliges the state to respect, protect, promote, and fulfill these rights, binding all branches of government and, in certain cases, private entities. Section 36 allows for limitation of rights, but only under strict conditions, ensuring that rights are not arbitrarily restricted. The protection of human rights in South Africa is deeply rooted in the country's transition from apartheid to democracy. During apartheid, laws such as the Group Area Act and past laws systematically denied black South African political, social, and economic rights. The 1996 Constitution marked a transformative shift guaranteeing rights to all individuals, including refugees and foreign nationals. Despite strong legal frameworks, challenges remain, including socio-economic inequalities, access to justice, and the implementation of development rights such as education, healthcare, and housing. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa explicitly outlawed discrimination based on sexual orientation. Ratified in 1996, it was the first national constitution globally to protect the rights of the LGBTQ+ individuals. The foundation of the LGBTQ+ rights in South Africa in Section 9(3) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. It states that the state may not unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on several grounds, including sexual orientation, race, gender, and sex, marital status, age, and disability. If we could forgive our oppressors, if we could forgive people who brutally abused us, then in the apartheid regime, even now we can be able to accept our fellow brothers and sisters that we live with. Based on this constitutional mandate, the Parliament and Government of the Republic of South Africa has enacted the following sweeping legislative protection and landmark court rulings. Marriage equality, same-sex marriage, has been legal since the passage of the Civil Union Act in 2006. Joint adoption, same-sex couples have full equal rights to adopt children or co-parent. Hate crimes, the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill criminalizes bias-motivated crimes based on sexual orientation. Human rights play a vital role in South Africa's democracy, serving as the foundation of for promoting and protecting individual dignity, freedom, and well-being from the devastation of over 300 years of colonization and apartheid. South Africa has, over the last 30 years of democracy, come a long way in inculcating a culture of human rights and social justice into the very fabric of our society we have enjoyed so far.
You are left with
It is important
2 minutes.
for all laws to be aligned to the principles
Honorable
and ethos
Majosi,
of our
you are left
Constitution
with 2 minutes.
to ensure that persistent inequalities shaped by race, a direct consequence of apartheid, are addressed. Agenda 2063 in South Africa is implemented through the National Development Plan. The strategy aims to eliminate poverty, reduce inequality, and drive inclusive economic growth, while deeply integrating South Africa into the broader African continental economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, honorable panelists. I thank you for your wisdom, the honesty of your experience, and your commitment to Africa's cultural future. You have demonstrated that the diversity of our continent is not a weakness, it is our greatest strategic asset. Different traditions, different legislative models, and different experiences of external pressure, and yet one shared unshakable conviction that African peoples have the right to govern themselves according to their own values, on their own terms, through their own democratically constituted institutions. We have come to the end of this session. I thank you all for listening. Tatenda, Asante, Messi. We are done.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, honorable panelists. We are not taking questions because of the time. We are grateful to you. Merci beaucoup, honorable Deputy President. Merci. Can we give them a round of applause? Also, so we've come to the last session for today. We want to take solidarity messages from some of our partners. The first partner can quickly join us from East Africa Legislative Assembly. Can we give it up for our honorable colleague from East Africa Legislative Assembly. Honorable, the next person is from AFBA. 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 African Bar Association. Anybody from the African Bar Association? Okay, my French is not good, so I'm going to translate in French. Then the next person is from FACH. FACH. Okay. FACH. Then we have CCI. Anyone from CCI? Okay, Christian Cancer International from Netherlands, please take the podium. Then ACPF. ACPF. Anyone from ACPF? Please come closer. Last but not the least, AUC. African Union Commission on Human and People's Rights. So we'll start with our colleague from East Africa Legislative Assembly. 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Honorable, who is also our moderator of today. My name is Jacqueline Amongin, and I'm a member of the East African Parliament. And on behalf of the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, I would like to present a solidarity statement. I am a commissioner of the Parliament, and I'm also the Secretary General of the Africa Network of Parliamentarians on Climate Change. The representative of the President of Ghana, the representative of the Speaker of Ghana, honorable speakers and honorable members of Parliament, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I bring you warm greetings from the Speaker and members of the East African Legislative Assembly, an assembly that brings 8 member countries making laws on behalf of the people of East Africa. Allow me at the outset to warmly congratulate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana and the Parliament of Ghana, for successfully hosting this 4th Inter-Parliamentary Conference on Family, Sovereignty, and Values. The Republic of Ghana has once again demonstrated commendable leadership in convening critical conversations on Africa's futures, sovereignty, and development. Indeed, as Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's founding president, once reminded us, we face neither east nor west, but we face forward. This conference embodies that forward-looking African vision grounded in independence of thought and policy. And it's on this note that one of the great forefathers once said that every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its historical mission and either fulfill it or betray it. Dear honorable members, the ball is on our hands as we have the right time for the right people to uphold the African values and African values that are shared. I also wish to commend His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda and the Chair of the East Africa Heads of State Summit, together with the Parliament of Uganda, for hosting the first 3 conferences that are built to the Ghana historic meeting. Those earlier gatherings laid a strong foundation for what is now emerging as a significant African parliamentary movement, one dedicated to safeguarding the family, defending national sovereignty, and strengthening African ownership of policy development. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the East African Legislative Assembly fully understands the pressures that regional institutions face in today's development environment. Increasingly, Increasingly, development assistance and external financing are accompanied by ideological programming and legislative expectations that may not always reflect the constitutional traditions, cultural values, or democratic choices of the African people. In this regard, therefore, we recall the words of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who cautioned, "We must run while others walk, because the world does not wait for us. But in running, we must remain anchored in our own values, our own laws, and our own national priorities." One notable example has been the repeated introduction of the sexual and reproductive health and rights legislation at the East African Legislative Assembly, despite the fact that some of the texts could be good. Across these 3 consecutive assemblies, concerns have been raised that some provision may conflict with constitutional frameworks and public policy positions adopted by several partner states. Yet such initiatives continue to receive strong backing, often supported by substantial financial resources, technical expertise, and international frameworks capable of exerting significant influence on regional institutions and processes. This reality raises an important question for all of us. The question is, how can African institutions remain accountable first and foremost to African citizens, African constitutions, and African priorities, dear honorable members, as emphasized in the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the Africa Protocol on Human and People's Rights. Africa must pursue an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on potential of African people. It is for this reason that this conference is both timely and very critical. This gathering embodies what genuine African sovereignty should look like. It brings Africans together to deliberate African challenges and to formulate African solutions. It is a forum driven not by externalities or conditionalities, but by conviction, dialogue, and a shared commitment to the welfare of our people. Most importantly, this conference stands as a powerful example of African ownership. It is funded by Africans, organized by Africans, and focused on issues that Africans themselves have identified as central to their future. That is the very essence of sovereignty. We should walk the talk. As parliamentarians, we have a duty to ensure that development partnerships strengthen rather than weaken our institutions, that cooperation respects rather than replaces national constitutional orders, and that progress never comes at the expense of our people's rights to determine their own social, cultural, and legislative priorities. The East African Legislative Assembly, therefore, welcomes and supports continued parliamentary dialogue on family, sovereignty, development, and value, essential pillars of African future. In our plenary that commences next week, we intend to table in the flow of Parliament, because in this meeting we're talking about action, we intend to table a bill on African families and values. We call for your support towards these measures. We also commend the honorable members of Parliament who have championed this cause, and we call upon all of you to adopt the African Charter on Families. Madase si moetie me Nyamesrau Ghana, Nyamesrau President John Mahama Dramadi, Nyamesrau Honorable Alban Sumana, na Speaker of Parliament, ne Deputy Speaker Andrews Ashimana. Nyamesrau East Africa, Nyamesrau Africa, shukran, merci beaucoup.
Nyamishra Munira. Thank you very much, honorable colleague. The next to give a solidarity message is from from the African Bar Association. Shall we?
Your Excellencies, Right Honorable Speakers, Deputy Speakers, Members of Parliament, and the civil society, I'm Augustine Richard Kaketo. I convene the Family Law Committee of the African Bar Association. It is not for the drinking, it is the lawyers' gathering. And it was founded in 1971, generally to convene individual lawyers and bar associations at various country level. We engage in litigation, advisory for legislation, and programming. The African Bar Association has been associated with these conferences from the very beginning, partly because the African Bar Association raised the first flag when the African, Caribbean, and Pacific states were negotiating the now Samoa Agreement, then the post-Cotonou Agreement. Realizing that this trade agreement had infused into itself a category of human rights that was going to be antithetical to African culture and progress. We raised the matter again in our conference, first in Niamey, 2021 in Niger, and we discussed the matter again in 2022 in Malawi. That's when a decision was made on realizing that members of parliament, the representatives of the peoples of Africa, were not well represented or even listened to during the negotiations of the now Samoa Agreement. We decided that we will instigate the convergence of members of parliament and speakers who would be open to listening to this side of events. You are aware that this conference and the African Charter that we are about to adopt has suffered a lot of attack, first on the individuals involved, then onto the conference itself, and the Charter has been one of the most discussed documents. I would like to invite you to affirm yourselves that the pressures and resistance to this Charter actually justify the Charter. It is the reason we need this Charter. It is the reason we must adopt it. The adversaries and opponents of the Charter rely on a reinterpretation of the international human rights instruments. Sexual and reproductive health and rights are not existent in any core international human rights instrument. I would like to be challenged on that. They are all a product of conferences, programming from UNFPA, WHO, etc. For some reason, these rights that are called pseudo-rights have made their way into the foreign policy of the European Union. So it is now part of the European Union foreign policy to promote sexual and reproductive health and rights. But when you ask a promoter of sexual and reproductive health and rights for all, what these rights look like for a 10-year-old, they can't explain. What do sexual rights look like for a 10-year-old? Do we know? So this problem has to be dealt with by the creation of an African regional international law, which will then guide our parliaments and our litigators in reinterpreting the documents we have. So I'd like to commend you all for supporting the Charter, and the African Bar Association, in particular the Family Law Committee, is excited to continue associating with this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. He's done it right under 2 minutes. And so the next solidarity message is coming from Foundation for Africa Culture Heritage. 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Let me start on existing protocol. And first of all, the Foundation for African Cultural Heritage. We want to thank the Ghana government, and the Ghana, specifically the Ghana Parliament, for putting up this very successful, beautiful conference. We thank the Speaker of the Parliament for his brilliant presentation, and all the speakers who spoke this morning, then the organizers of this conference. Many of members of the African Cultural Heritage will be here. The African Cultural Heritage is a coalition of values-based NGOs and organizations in Nigeria. I hope we all know that Nigeria is the most populous African country. So Nigeria is a giant. Nigeria remains a giant. So we are about 35 in number. It's a very big body, a coalition of all the values-based NGOs in Nigeria. And we are doing a lot. I wouldn't say, no, I'm not trying to praise ourselves, but we have done a lot because we started working together because I attended a meeting in Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, many years ago. I'm also a lawyer, and I also go to the United Nations, and I'm also in the media, so I quite have enormous knowledge of what is happening. I've been in it for the past 35 years, so I will explain. We're in that meeting in Abuja, and they were saying, why is it that African countries have not been completely destroyed? I was in the meeting, This is not hearsay. A meeting of journalists. I'm a journalist. And some of them said it's because of their cultural and religious values. They said it. And the answer they gave them, when I said they, people who came from the West, I remember professor, I would not like to mention their names, who are supporting all this. We know their names. If you want, I can mention their names in Africa, those who are doing this havoc. That's why we are very happy that Burkina Faso has recently expelled some of these foreign NGOs who are doing havoc in Burkina Faso and in Africa. And we are wondering why other African countries have not followed suit and expelled them. This is something that I was just looking at. Just look at these chambers, very intelligent people, unbelievable. And then a few reflex from outside are imposing things on us, and we are just watching, It's annoying to me maybe because of my training as a lawyer. It's my right to ensure that you don't impose foreign things on me. Because I'm a human being. I have my own right to. So don't impose anyone on me. So in that meeting in Abuja, they said, if religious and cultural values are the obstacle, enter them and try to destroy them. I heard it. Shortly after that, some entered some churches in Nigeria, pretending as they were members of the church. Some went to the universities to start a course, year one course, that has to do with LGBT. We had their names and we monitored. So after that, we started the coalition for Foundation for African Cultural Heritage. And we have achieved a lot. That makes me, I was sitting there and I was always agitated. I said, look, we can do it. Because in Nigeria, to a certain extent, we have done something. We don't have money, okay? This coalition. Okay, I just come here, I paid my way, okay? That's why I go to the UN, I pay my way. But we are achieving slowly. For instance, we destroyed the abortion law in Nigeria, euphemistically expressed as women's reproductive rights. They have so many euphemisms and soft language that you don't understand, okay? At the United Nations, when the phrase gender equality comes up, all the nations will say, no, we don't want it. All nations, except South Africa. I'm sorry. South Africa is not always with us. They say no. Oh, it's only time. Anyway, so we are here and we are very happy. And members of FAC have been sending messages. I'll be telling them what has happened, and they're happy. They will have loved to be here, but they have traveled. That's why they're not here. So we are completely in support of this conference and want the assignment to be given to us, and we're ready to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next solidarity message is coming from the Christian Council International, our brother from Netherlands.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me here in West Africa. I thank you for this invitation. It's already my fourth participation in the Inter-Parliamentary conferences, also in Entebbe and now for the first time in Ghana. Before you stands a man. He's a father of 6 children, 4 boys, 2 girls, a Christian, and 28 years married, and it's a blessing every day. Then I have a connection with Africa because I'm here from Europe, from the Netherlands in Africa. I lived in Guinea, Conakry, for the mission for our church for a couple of times. And also after that I went to the European Parliament Foreign Affairs Committee, where I served for 7 years. And after that I was in a department related to the Foreign Affairs Ministry of the Netherlands, responsible for Kenya and Tanzania. And when I worked for these organizations in the Parliament and the EU and also the Foreign Affairs Committee, then I saw who is actually running these organizations. And the EU, but also the UN, the UNFPA, we heard it just from Mr. Kaketo. These organizations are not run by the member states, but by the unelected bureaucratic elites from a very left liberal perspective, introducing all kinds of concepts like SRHR, comprehensive sexuality education. It has been repeated many times, and they are putting that also on this continent. And then I thought someone has to do something. Who is watching these organizations? And then I started Christian Council International as an organization, an NGO, who is critically watching and monitoring the agendas and alerting delegates from your countries in Geneva, New York, but also in Brussels, when something happens what affects your country when it comes to life, family, and freedom. And then I want to give you just one window, one look what yesterday happened in The Hague in our national parliament. And I want you to consider if you want these kinds of policies here in your continent in Africa. 1, the definition of embryos was broadened. Now also an embryo-like structure simulated from a body material from one person can be made an embryo, is an embryo, and can be put in a woman. Secondly, there was a symposium on the legalization of surrogacy. Do we want that? Here. Then, yesterday evening, very sadly, the anti-conversion law or act on the criminalization of conversion on sexual orientation and gender identity on persons below 18 years, that was agreed on. So, if one of my boys says tomorrow, I identify as a girl, and they say, wait a minute, I want to talk to you, and they want to talk with you regularly. But the school affirms that new orientation or identity, then I can end up to have a fine of 22,500 euros or to go 1 or 2 years to prison for my own child. So that is the Netherlands, and I want you to be aware that these policies are not only reserved for the Netherlands and for Europe. They are coming to Africa. We just heard it from Brother Kaketo, from Richard. And I was ready to also say something about the Samoa Agreement. It has already been done. I've been involved in nearly all joint parliamentary ACP-EU parliamentary assemblies in several cities in Africa, also in Maputo. And I remember vividly that there was the Honorable Tayepwa from Uganda, and he questioned the European Commission, and he said, how can I sign a treaty which we can never domesticate? And also Honorable Ashims from Malawi, he had also a courageous attempt to get the document and to bring it first to the national parliaments of Africa, to look at it, to scrutinize it, to decide on it, because you are the representatives of your people. Not Brussels has to teach you how to implement which things. So, but the reality is that you are now, you have now a document which is signed, ratified, and it has to be implemented. So, in conclusion, I think it is a very wise decision to adopt this African Charter on Family Values and Sovereignty. You need to stand up yourself, and I hope that it will serve as a beacon of hope, not only for Africa, but also for the rest of the world, as an example, and as well as a protection for your children, families, and peoples against the pressure and ideological colonization of the West. One colonial period was enough. As a father and a dear friend of Africa, I wish you God's blessings. Unite, otherwise you will fall and be divided. God bless you.
Thank you very, very, very much, our friend from, and also one of the sponsors of this conference is from Netherlands. Finally, we want to take our final solidarity message from Africa Christian Professional Forum. Okay.
Riding on all the protocols that has been established, allow me just to make the most of this time. I've even chosen the podium that was used by the speaker so that I can make a declaration. One is, let it be known that as the representatives of the people in Africa, the Africa Christian Professionals Forum supports, endorses, and affirms the ratification of this treaty during this conference. Two, we also want to make the following requests, that as the representatives of the people, upon making this declaration, that we appeal that resources at national level be allocated towards the celebration and the marking of all things to do with Parliament, because we need to put our monies where our mouth is, because what we value, we celebrate. Number three is that we as Christians, we believe in the concept of redemption. The UN has done some good things. They've all fallen short in some areas. One of the good things they've done is that they've ratified the 15th of May every year as the UN International Days of Families. I want to appeal to the African leaders, the African representatives who are seated and listening across, that this is a day that we can run with and rally energies and efforts, that in every country, in every town, that on the May 15th of every year, we come out, we march, and we demonstrate our commitment to the protection of African values. ACPF is willing and committed to work with this movement, and just to invite us to the Pan-African Conference, May next year in South Africa, where we will give high prominence, visibility, and profile to the importance of this charter. I thank you.
Oh, that is beautiful. Please, let's give it out to them again. This honorable gentlemen who have been supporting us all this while. Before we take our housekeeping announcement, our colleague Honorable Mutita from DR Congo said he has something to share, and then we'll take our housekeeping matters. We need to move from here quickly because the Right Honorable Speaker will be waiting for us.
Honorable Clotilde Mutita, rapporteur adjoint de l'Assemblée nationale de la République démocratique du Congo. Merci beaucoup, monsieur le modérateur. Alors, c'est d'abord pour moi une occasion de remercier le Ghana et d'une manière très spéciale l'Ouganda pour les initiatives et surtout le suivi de cette charte que nous devons absolument voter. Alors, je dis aussi merci pour mon intervention de demain en ce qui concerne la souveraineté sanitaire, parce que la réalité chez nous avec Ebola, et c'est une réalité très vivante que nous voudrions vraiment partager. Et quand il y a un pays qui souffre, le voisin aussi doit absolument s'impliquer. Et donc, ceci consistera mon intervention de demain lors de notre modération. Honorables collègues parlementaires de tous les pays représentés, au fond, c'est un discours de solidarité aussi que nous avons préparé. Distingués représentants des différents partenaires, mesdames et messieurs, à vos titres et qualités respectifs, chers frères et sœurs d'Afrique, c'est avec une profonde responsabilité historique et une conscience aiguë de notre destin commun que je prends humblement la parole devant vous et avec vous. C'est aussi animé par une triple responsabilité que je m'adresse à vous et à nos peuples respectifs et communs. En ma qualité de parlementaire congolaise et donc africaine, de leader politique, mais plus profondément encore avec la sensibilité et l'instinct protecteur d'une femme et d'une mère de famille. Je porte ici, au cœur de nos délibérations institutionnelles, non pas la voix d'une seule nation, mais l'écho des aspirations des millions et de législateurs à travers notre vaste continent. Permettez-moi également de saluer la vision et l'engagement des plus hautes institutions de la République démocratique du Congo sous le leadership de son Excellence le Président de la République, Félix Antoine Tshisekedi, dont la diplomatie agissante en Afrique œuvre sans relâche pour la paix, la stabilité régionale
where is
et le
working towards
renforcement de la
peace in Africa and also strengthening of cooperation between African nations. His constant commitment with regards to dialogue and also sovereignty of African states and continental integration constitute today an important reference in building a strong, united Africa respective values. So here, on behalf of the President of my Parliament, we are here to give flesh and also to the Charter of African values and sovereignty. This act that saw its birth in Entebbe is a sovereign act. It goes beyond our borders, and this act to recolonize us socially. Looking at all that is happening as a woman parliamentarian and also looking at this legal instrument, I'll say that we cannot disassociate it from the reality of our families. And the African family is funding on the basis of our family. And this intergenerational solidarity is dear to our tradition, where the education of a child is our shared responsibility. That is where our African genius goes very far. And for instance, we share that collective responsibility. We need to institutionalize this perspective in our parliament. Every law, every political law should be reviewed vis-à-vis its direct impact on our families, that's our community. We are crossing dangerous waters. Our cultural values and religious values are being attacked. And this through international aid. As guardians and also representatives of African people, I must here formulate or sound a warning that we are actually facing an external pressure that should not be acceptable through trade, support to trade and economy. And this is to impose on us ambiguous and destructive concepts. We can see through the sexual reproductive right, the issue on abortion. I mean, we are not against people. We are not against gender equality, but we want it to be done rightfully. As parliamentarians, we believe that this program, in a way, creates a sexual perspective to us. and alienate them from their social and cultural values. When it comes to the Charter and continental sovereignty, as I said earlier, my presence here is one of the first processes since we started this. This is why it is an opportunity for me, as a daughter of Africa, coming from DR Congo, make sure that this should not be a simple wish, but becomes a policy of our continent. I humbly think that we need to support and execute all the commitments within the Charter. I am in agreement with the Charter and its content. In conclusion, I will say that the future of the African is being played out here and with us, because we know, and we already saying that Africa is a beacon of civilization. And that is why I say that peace and lasting security would only be achieved when we achieve a total sovereignty by putting in place an expert committee on family sovereignty, and also to fight against external forces to protect our family. We have a very rigorous tool that will help us to make sure that this text is respected. We need to unite our various parliaments to protect our children and preserve the soul of our continent. May God bless our countries. May God bless Africa. May God bless and protect our families. Long live the 4th Inter-Parliamentary Conference.
Merci, Député Honorable. We want to thank our distinguished brothers and sisters who share with us their solidarity message. Can we give it up for them? Can you please take your seat? Now, housekeeping matters. 2 minutes.
So, all protocols observed. These are just a few announcements before we close for the day. Unfortunately, the tours we had planned for you today, because the day is fast spent, have been postponed until further notice. But as soon as we finish, as we go out, either on the back corridor of the chamber or the foyer, there are some snacks that have been packed for each of the delegates and other personnel who are here. So you can pick something up and nibble. But please, we would like you to hang out a little bit and network, just to create some rapport and some familiarity among ourselves before we continue for the evening. The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Ghana, Honorable Alban Sumana Bagbin, is hosting us for a dinner at 7 p.m. tonight at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Auditorium. So we'd be grateful if we could all make our way to the dinner just to have some fun, some memorable time, enjoy some Ghanaian music and the ambience in Ghana while you are here. So that's at 7 p.m. from today. And again, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then tomorrow, unfortunately today we started quite late, and that's why things have run late till this time. But we hope, we don't hope, we intend to start exactly at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And there's a lot packed for tomorrow. So we'd be grateful if everybody can enjoy the dinner today, get back to your rooms for some rest, and make sure that you're here on time by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you very much.
On that note, obrigado, merci beaucoup, thank you very much. We'll see you, the delegates, at the dinner this evening. Thank you.